joining us now from Tehran for more on that is Sayyid Mohammad Marandi, Professor at the University of Tehran. Professor Marandi, it's good to see you. What do you make of President Raisi and Iran's general membership at the 23rd Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting that has been held today?
It is an important moment in contemporary history, with all the changes taking place, the decline of the West, the multiple wars that we're seeing, and rising tensions in East Asia, and of course the atrocities that we continue to see in Palestine. While this is happening, the economy is moving away from the West. The global economy, the center of the economy in commerce and trade and production, is moving to Asia, and of course Iran is a part of Asia. And in order for the fortunes of the Iranian people and the people across Eurasia to improve, there needs to be greater cooperation, greater convergence of interests, and the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, provides such a format. It is a format that can bring about greater security, it can bring about greater prosperity, and it can prevent Western regimes from imposing their will on countries across Asia.
Professor Marandi, you just expanding on the economy moving from the West. There are some that say that it can't happen, but looking at it at a wider picture, it's not something that can happen overnight or with a magic wand. It needs time. And is that something that you want to explain?
Well, the development of the North-South corridor between Iran and Russia that links Russia to the Persian Gulf and Iran to Eurasia, and the Belt and Road Initiative, which links Iran to Central Asian countries and China. And of course, the North-South corridor links India to Iran and India to Russia through Iran. So we see that the changes that are taking place will have an extraordinarily important impact on the Iranian economy and on the economies of its partners. And with improved ties with countries in the Persian Gulf, that will only be enhanced. The issue is not that there will be change overnight, but change is happening. And the more countries like Iran develop their relations with the global South, with Asian countries, with neighboring countries, the more they are capable of getting a good deal with the Europeans and the Americans. The Europeans and the Americans are in great trouble. They are confronting Russia, they are confronting China, they've antagonized countries across the globe, their economies are in decline, and Iran, by building up these new relationships, its fortunes are improving. So under such circumstances, Europe and the United States have to show greater flexibility in dealing with Iran. In other words, if we want to be able to work with Western countries as well, they have to recognize that they cannot strangle us, that their stranglehold is loosening and they're losing leverage. That's the only real way to force them to change their behavior.
Right, and then just the final question, Professor Marandi. We're seeing developments occurring so quickly and so in such a fluid way that it's one wouldn't have imagined this 1 year ago. The rapprochement with Saudi Arabia, the expansion of BRICS, Iran joining the SCO, becoming the 9th member, the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis in Europe, so much inflation that's rising, the protests and strikes in Europe and the West. And as you said, we're seeing this emerging prosperity in the East, in the Persian Gulf region. Do you want to just touch on that as well?
The points you made simply reinforce the fact that the United States and the Europeans are living in the past, whereas the world, the reality on the ground has changed. And they're living in their bubble. They are assuming that they can control countries and control events, and increasingly it's becoming clear that they cannot. Today we see that Russia has been sanctioned, Iran has been sanctioned, a host of countries across the world are now sanctioned. Countries like China are concerned about being sanctioned. It is being sanctioned in different ways. So now you have this major force, this global interest, incentive to move away from Western financial institutions and the dollar. And it's not just in Asia, it's in Africa, it's in Latin America. It's among the same is being said among ASEAN countries. So this is the global South recognizing that now is the moment to emancipate themselves from the West and the United States. And unless the United States and Europe wake up to this reality and change their policies, they're going to be the biggest losers in all of this.
And just Dr. Marandi, Professor Marandi, we saw several aspects of President Raisi's speech today at the SCO summit. Do you want to just quickly run through some of the highlights of his address?
Well, I think the fact that he points out that the destructive role of the West, and of course he made reference to the atrocities being committed by Western regimes and their allies, is itself a key factor that should bring Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries together. And in addition to that, making reference to the Belt and Road Initiative, the North-South Transport Corridor, reinforces not only and reminds the audience and other leaders not only of Iran's importance and its key position geographically speaking, but I think it is also an encouragement to countries like Saudi Arabia and other countries in the Persian Gulf to link up to Iran so that they can benefit from trade with Central Asia, China, Russia, and other countries in the Caucasus. But also I think what is important is how he reminds the audience of where Iran stands and how Iran has brought about security in West Asia. Iran defeated ISIS, Iran defeated Al-Qaeda along with its allies, but Iran played the lead role in all of this. So Iran not only benefits Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries economically, not only is it the key transit and transport corridor, but it is key for stability and security in West Asia.
Just finally, Professor Marandi, just on one of the points you touched, among all the SCO members, as you say, Iran is perhaps the most experienced, and the facts on the ground prove this with its military advisors to Iraq, and Syria during the era of Daesh, led by the icon and the legend, the late martyr, Lieutenant General Qasem Soleimani, that managed to defeat a terrorist group that the American military in Iraq said would take 10 years to defeat, but with the help of Iranian military advisors. And this is, when we speak about Daesh, it's become a joke now that it's Al-Qaeda on steroids. But they really were. It was the most extremist terrorist group that the world has ever seen, and it spilled blood on European soil, not just in West Asia. And Iran managed to set up and help mobilize the people and the soldiers and lift their spirits with its combat know-how, in dealing with terrorists. So very quickly, do you want to just touch on that? We've got a few minutes left, about Iran's role and how it can play a leading role in defeating terrorism and extremism.
Without Iran, without the resistance, we would have black flags, the black flags of ISIS and Al-Qaeda over Damascus and Baghdad and perhaps other parts of West Asia as well today. And even Turkey and other countries would have deeply regretted their support for these extremists. And today, Iran's experience in dealing with extremism is key for Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries. We always have the threat of extremism in Afghanistan, and that could spread to Central Asia. So Iran is an anchor of stability. It brings about stability in its in the region that it exists in, and therefore Iran being a part of the SCO means enhanced stability in Central Asia. It means enhanced stability in Afghanistan, and these regions are key for trade and development between countries that are members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Professor Marandi, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts. Sayyid Mohammad Marandi is a professor at the University of Tehran, joining us live from the Iranian capital with the latest